Wish you good luck.
When you talk about tax rates, lowering or raising, or it's the same, that can fall in that category of liars.
Please.
Your figures lie.
Check. Yeah. All right, did the lady give us permission? The lady in this computer?
Oh, we've always just turned it off.
How you doing? Yeah. Ray, the computer lady say we can go?
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
I'm sorry, I just love that. All right, good evening, everyone. It's July 11th at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Village Council meeting, regular Village Council meeting. Just to let everyone know, at the conclusion of our regular council meeting, we'll adjourn and reconvene immediately to have our 2024 budget workshop meeting. So if everyone would stand, please, and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is so funny. Okay, Diane, please let the record show that all members of the council are present. All right, and we're going to start the evening with reports. I think, Jan, you're up first.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We are super excited. King Lear's coming this summer from Shakespeare in the Palms, July 25th through the 29th, 8 p.m. at Commons, so 4 nights. Bring your picnic basket and your beverages and snacks and enjoy King Lear. Should be great. I don't think I think I've heard that they have not done King Lear in the past, so this is exciting. And then another thing to report, I had the pleasure of meeting with a representative of Discover the Palm Beaches and a consulting firm out of Minnesota who is doing a cultural asset map of the entire county. And they came to visit us at both Veterans Park and Commons. So thanks to Steve and Silvio and Chelsea for hosting and providing information as well. And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Good evening. Last council meeting, you may remember I mentioned, and of course there was an article in Town Crier that indicated that we have a new principal at Royal Palm Beach High School, Dr. Shakika Robinson, and I actually had a chance to spend almost 2 hours with her in her office the other day and really got a chance to get to know her. I will tell you that, at least for me, I think she brings some energy and some insight, and the thing that I enjoyed most is there's an authenticity about her behavior, which I think is going to work well with the students as well as for the faculty. Now, of course, she's not new to Royal Palm Beach High School. She's taught there before and went on to be an AP at Santa Lucia. And I actually had a chance to talk to the 2 principals from both Dr. Armas and also another Dr. Robinson from the 2 schools where she served before, and they gave her just glowing remarks and endorsements. So I think we've got something to look forward to here. I think the energy is great. She also, this past Tuesday, was a guest speaker at Royal Palm Beach Rotary, where, again, I believe she impressed everyone with her story. She's got a very interesting life story and how she got to where she is, and her passion for teaching and education really comes through loud and clear. And she is wide-eyed and understands she has some serious challenges to handle, not only being new, but also just dealing with the reputation of the school and the progress that has been made in the past, and hopefully she'll continue to do that. We had a really interesting League of Cities meeting last month at Palm Beach Gardens. The guest speaker was Mary Blakeney, the Director of Emergency Management, Palm Beach County, and of course that's pretty timely given that we've already experienced the first major hurricane. In fact, I think this is the earliest we have seen an Atlantic hurricane, Cat 5, in recorded history. Bodes kind of poorly, but it also fits with the predictions, which are pretty extreme, well above seasonal averages is the way they put it over the past 30 years. They're predicting anywhere between 8 and 13 hurricanes, 17 to 25 named storms, and 4 to 7 of the hurricanes will be major hurricanes. And again, starting out with Hurricane Beryl, that's a pretty good indication of good reason to be paying close attention, and for us to be talking to everybody that we can talk to about encouraging them to make sure they've got a plan and that they are ready to deal with the storms as they come. Of course, Palm Beach County is pretty good at providing information. I mean, we've even got our own version, actually. It's available here and other places in Royal Palm Beach with guideline information on hurricane preparedness. One of our biggest concerns is that since we haven't had a hurricane here in a while, that we become complacent. We certainly don't want to do that. So anything we can do to encourage folks to be prepared and take this season in particular seriously, I think is something that will be worth our effort for sure. So that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
I guess my only report is I did see an email, and I guess there's going to be a conflict with one of the King Lears on the 25th. I believe our County Commissioner Baxter is having a candidate forum over at the Cultural Center. So it looks like the Indian Trail Improvement Districts, which I know some Royal Palm Beach voters vote in those. And I believe, I want to say it was House Race 93 and 94. So if you want to come out and see who the candidates are, I think that'd be a good opportunity. And there is an election next month. I want to say it's the 20th, but I'm not positive on that for local August.
I'm saying it.
Yeah, it's August. It's almost August already. So please get out and vote. I know there are usually low turnout elections, but we do have some judicial races that it's very important to have our say. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, one of those races being state attorney. Yeah.
Primaries.
Thank you. Selena?
Good evening, everyone. Just have some updates or highlights, I should say, from our July 4th event. So we had 40 golfers at the golf tournament. We had 12 teams for the sand volleyball tournament. 54 children participated in our bass fishing tournament, and they all received prizes. So it was really nice that they all got to participate in that. Yeah, and they were all really happy. We had 20 teams at our beanbag toss tournament, and hundreds took part in the kids' craft and activities. So I love that we do all that free stuff, the free rides at Commons Park. And the estimated attendance at Commons Park for our July 4th event was between 25 and 30,000 people. So we keep getting a little bit bigger and growing, so it was really nice. And then thank you, everybody, for your patience in getting out. I know it does take a little bit of time. Summer youth sports camps are going on, so we have a volleyball camp July 15th through the 18th and a basketball camp August 5th through the 9th, and you can register on the website at royalpalmbeachfl.gov or at the rec center. And then finally, we have our Senior Citizen Health Expo that is July 31st over at the Cultural Center. So that's free to attend, and we have over 30 vendors registered already to be there. And that completes my report.
Thank you. Ray, you have anything?
I only have one thing. Councilwoman Samios forgot to mention that her team, which was part of the mayor's team on the golf tournament, got a -9 on the golf tournament. Just wanted to say.
An honest, modest 9.
That's all I have.
9 under. Okay, thank you. Maddie?
No report, Mr. Mayor, other than nice to be with you all this evening.
Okay, glad to have you here. All right, well, that concludes our reports. And just another final comment, the Parks Department and their entire team and all of the folks from the fire department and especially our police, PBSO, did a tremendous job. When you have a 25,000 plus crowd to work with, that's a task. But they all worked very hard that day. It was a long day. Believe me, it was a long day. It was a hot day. But I just want to thank them for their service to the community in this regard. And we look forward to the next one. All right, so with that, right now, we would, anyone who has a petition to present to the council, now would be the time to present that petition. And I don't see any petitions being presented this evening. So I'm going to close the floor to petitions for the evening. Statements from the public on non-agenda items or consent agenda items. Diane, any advance?
No, Mayor.
No? Ray, anyone have their hands raised?
No, Mayor.
I have not received any public comment cards on non-agenda or consent agenda items, so I'm closing the floor to those two items. And now we'll turn over to listen to our consent agenda. Diane, please.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Number 1, approval of the minutes of the council regular meeting of June 20th, 2024. 2, approval and authorization for the mayor to execute the 9th addendum to the law enforcement service agreement by and between the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and the Village of Royal Palm Beach. 3, approval and authorization for the mayor to execute a traffic control jurisdiction agreement between Tuttle Royale Property Owners Association Incorporated and the Village of Royal Palm Beach. 4, approval and authorization for the village manager to execute the 4th addendum to food and beverage services agreement between the village and Seeds Cafe LLC to provide for the 3rd one-year renewal term beginning October 1st, 2024 and ending October 1st, 2025. 5, approval for the mayor to execute a consent to assignment of website design implementation and hosting agreement in order to assign the current agreement with Municipal Code Corporation to Civic Plus LLC. 6, approval and authorization for the village manager to execute the 4th addendum to food and beverage services agreement, Commons Park, between the village and Eats and Teas Holding LLC, now doing business as Parkside Cafe and Catering LLC, to modify the end of the current term and eliminate future renewals.
Okay, are there any items?
Yep, I'd like to pull consent agenda item number 2, please.
2? Okay. Anyone else? If there are no other comments on pulling any agenda items or questions on the consent agenda, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve consent agenda items 1 and 3 through 6.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, let the record show consent agenda items 1 and 3 through 6 were approved. 5-0. You're on.
Actually, I'm just going to let the village manager talk about it. If you can just give us a quick synopsis of the renewal agreement.
Okay,
Please.
what this is the renewal of the Sheriff's Office Law Enforcement Service Agreement to effective October 1st through September 30th of next year. The agreement does include the addition of 2 more deputies, bringing our total number of sworn officers in the agreement at 57. Total of 109 employees from 107, counting the crossing guards and administrative staff and all. With the 2 additional officers and the cost of living increase, the total increase to the contract is 6.24%. So it's still well within. It's a good contract. Sheriff's been very fair with us over the last 2 decades now, almost. I think 2006 was our first year. So we're
Wow.
this will be the 19th year with the sheriff's office, and it's been a great relationship. And I think it's time to add these 2 on at this time. So that's what That's what I'm recommending in this consent agenda item, and we may have. This usually comes after the budget workshop.
Yeah, but
that
we'll
we
talk about it
this,
through the
but,
budget, yeah.
We can also talk about it at the budget workshop. So that's the agreement.
Thank you. Do you anticipate that once additional properties become occupied, that there will be a need for the other 2 officers? Or do you think we can go with this for, I know you're not the expert on that, but as far as
Well, we don't know that because we don't know when what will be coming on. Obviously, the biggest thing we're anticipating coming on is Pod 6 of Tuttle Royale, which is 400-some thousand square feet of non-residential, and it's an entertainment district, and 400 more apartment or rental unit, or actually residential units. I don't know what they exactly are going to be. So there may be a need for more after that gets online, but we'll let it get online first and then deal with it.
And then, because I believe that they do have private security.
They do.
On there as well, so that'll come in before we need the other officers?
We
Okay.
did require that they have 24-hour security, or at least when I don't remember the exact times. Definitely when it was open. Right. So whenever the entertainment district is open, they had to have security, yes.
Any other questions, members on council? There are none. I look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve consent agenda item number 2.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, let the record show consent agenda item 2 was approved 5-0. And with that, we'll move to the regular agenda, or regular agenda item R1. is a public hearing for a second reading, in addition, in adoption of ordinance number 1048, amending chapter 21-.7, streets, sidewalks, other public places, and Article 1, in general, to add entirely new section 21.7.1, definitions, enforcement, and penalties to regulate and prohibit certain activities in village rights of way. And we're going to hear from Paul?
I can handle this one if you want,
right.
and Rob as well. If I could read it by
Hey,
title,
Rob, how you
Mr. Mayor,
doing?
while he's coming to the podium. If I could read the title, as you said, it's ordinance number 1048, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, amending chapter 21.7, street, sidewalks, and other places, Article 1 in general, to add entirely new sections 21.7-1, definitions, 21.7-2, prohibited use of public road rights-of-way, and 21.7-3, enforcement and penalties to regulate and prohibit certain activities in village rights-of-way, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
That's about it, Mr. Mayor, Council. Good evening. There's been no change.
It's
since
the second
first-
reading, so I
the
think
first reading, so-
Yeah, okay. Any questions, members on council? No? Diane, any prior public comments on agenda item R1? Ray, any hands raised?
No, Mayor.
No hands raised. I have not received any public comment cards on agenda item R1, so I'm closing the floor to public comments on that agenda item. If no questions or comments from council, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item R1?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, let the record show agenda item R1 was approved 5-0. You staying up for the second one? Okay. Regular agenda item R2, the public hearing also for the second reading in adoption ordinance number 1049, amending chapter 23, traffic and vehicles, to add entirely new sections 23-19, stopping, standing, and parking in designated areas, to prohibit such activity in fire lanes and other designated areas where signs, street, or curb markings prohibit. Okay.
If I could read the whole title, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you
Yeah.
said, it's ordinance number 1049, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 23, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 2, Parking, to add entirely new sections 23-19, stopping, standing, and parking in designated areas, to prohibit such activity in fire lanes and other designated areas where signs, street, or curb markings prohibit, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. If Rob has anything else, this is the same thing, second reading, so if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions or comments from members on council? Okay. Before I take a motion, Diane, any prior requests for public comment on this
Mayor.
agenda item? Ray, any hands raised?
No, Mayor.
I have not received any public comment cards on agenda item R2, so I'm closing the floor to that agenda item for public comments. If there are no questions or comments from members on council, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve regular agenda item R2.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, let the record show agenda item R2 was approved 5-0. Thanks for all that information, Mr. Hill.
Well done, Mr. Hill.
Okay. At this time, there are further items on our regular agenda or the regular council meeting agenda. So we will adjourn the regular council meeting at this time. And we will now convene the Village Council Budget Workshop for the Village of Royal Palm Beach. Yes, it is still Thursday, July 11th. We've already had our Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm going to move right ahead to, I guess we could look for comments from the public. Any prior comments from the public? Diane?
No, Mayor.
On our budget workshop? Ray, any hands raised?
No, Mayor.
No? I have no one. Is anyone here who wants to give me a comment card? I have no comment cards on the budget workshop agenda items. So therefore, I will close the floor to any public comments and proceed with the workshop, starting with a budget message by the village manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you know, the budget is our action, operation, and financial plan for the delivery of village services. The preparation of the budget is consistent with the village's mission to provide services and facilities to create an aesthetically pleasing, active, and connected community. The 1.92 or $1.92 per $1,000 of taxable value will remain the same for the 13th year in a row. This will be the 28th year the tax rate has been the same or less than the previous year. We balanced this year's budget using our recurring revenues and the American Rescue Plan Act funds. Those funds, the ARPA funds, can be used for general government expenses. The funds cannot be used for reducing taxes or building reserves. As you know, the Royal Palm Beach tax base is about 10% of the total tax bill that you get from the Palm Beach County property appraiser. Therefore, if your annual tax bill is $3,000, the village portion of that is about $300, which is about the average tax bill for our residents. We have 12,000 residential units out there, and that's about the average. This year's budget increases the level of service for Parks and Recreation and the Sheriff's Office with the 2 additional officers I mentioned at the regular meeting. In Parks and Rec, we are adding a part-time person and a full-time person. And there's other changes that have happened within the budget this last year's approved budget and prior to today. But the finance director will go over those details. Sharon will now present our 2025 proposed annual budget, followed by Chris Marsh with the 5-year capital budget.
Okay, thank you. Hi, you're on.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight you have before you the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2025. I'll be providing, I'll be providing an overview of the budget and any of the major changes. Our total budget for fiscal year 2025 is $68,188,329. The majority of the budget consists of the general fund operating at 46% and capital projects at 43%. Property values are projected at a 7.36% increase from the prior year. The millage rate, as Mr. Ligon said, is remaining the same at 1.92%, which has been consistent. Consumption-based revenues are projected to increase 14%, and the consumption-based revenues are primarily the increases due to our state revenue sharing that we receive from the state of Florida. The 1-cent surtax revenue is anticipated to sunset in December of 2024, and as you all know, this revenue source has funded a lot of our projects, one being the Village Hall, the corporate pavilions at the Commons, and a portion of the Recreation Center expansion.
Sharon, just sorry to interrupt you real quick, but just to confirm, I think, was it $2.4 million a year we get from that? Does that sound right?
For the sales surtax?
Yes.
So this
Roughly?
year is going to be a little bit less, but normally
Okay.
it's around $3 million.
Okay, a year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The ad valorem tax overview, as stated before, the property values have increased 7.36%, and that includes approximately $53 million in new construction. The 2023 property values were $4.265 billion, and the 2024 property values are $4.579 billion, which is an increase of approximately $314 million. The illustration in front of you shows the impact of our millage rate on homes valued at $225,000, $350,000, and $475,000. When we take in consideration the homestead exemption of around $50,000, the tax bills for our residents within those property values range from $336, $576, and $816 respectively. The general fund revenues are budgeted at $31,316,956. The majority of the revenues come from property taxes at 26%. Other taxes and fees, which consist of our utility tax for electricity and natural gas, and communication service tax and gas tax. Intergovernmental revenues are 23% of it, and license and permit fees are 15%. Our general fund expenditures is budgeted at $31,316,956, and the majority of those expenditures are from personnel services at 42%, contractual services at 38%, and other charges and services which consist of our repair and maintenance, equipment and leases at 17%. The major highlights on the expenditure side is related to our personnel services. Our merit is projected at an average of 3.5% for all employees. We have a cost of living adjustment budgeted at 3.5%. Our property and liability insurance premiums are currently under review, and our medical insurance is projected to increase 3%. Mr. Ligon stated before, we do have some position changes that were approved during this current fiscal year. Community Development had some reorganization within their department, and there was 3 positions that were reclassed. There was a reclassification of the Code Enforcement Supervisor to the Community Development Administrator, a reclassification of a Senior Administrative Assistant to a Code Enforcement Inspector 2, a reclassification of an Administrative Assistant 1 to a Permit Technician. In Public Works, we eliminated 4 positions, which we brought before you for approval prior in the year. These functions were, the elimination of these functions were then contracted out with different vendors. We eliminated 2 general maintenance workers, 1 general maintenance worker, 2, and 1 custodian. Within the Parks and Recreation Division or Department, we eliminated 2 general maintenance workers, 1, and those positions again were contracted out with other vendors. And we reclassified the Assistant Parks and Recreation Director to the Recreation Superintendent. In the Village Manager Department, we reclassified the Public Information Specialist to the Web and Social Media Specialist.
And I just want to note, all those positions, none of those positions were filled with people when they were eliminated.
All right, Peterson back home, okay.
These are the proposed positions that we have for the fiscal year 2025 budget. In engineering, we're proposing a special projects manager to be added. We're eliminating the part-time or intern, which again was never filled. Public Works is reclassification of a 1 general maintenance 1 to be split with the stormwater utility. And in Parks and Recreation, there's 1 general maintenance worker 2, which will be added to the Parks Division, and a part-time facility attendant added to the Cultural Center. The Stormwater Utility Fund revenue is projected at $1,368,335, of which 98% of this revenue comes from our stormwater utility fee. In the proposed budget, we are proposing an increase of our stormwater fee by $1 per equivalent residential unit, or ERU. The current fee is $5.50 per ERU. And as you can see from the illustration, we have our projected revenue at that fee would be $1,163,082, and our estimated expenditures of $1,205,469. Our revenues would exceed our expenditures, would exceed our revenues at the current rate. We're at the proposed rate of $6.50. We would have an excess over revenues over expenditures of $162,866. As you will see on my next slide, the majority of the expenses in this fund is related to personnel costs and repair and maintenance. The stormwater utility expenditures is projected at $1,368,335. Of this amount, 44% is personnel services, 37% is other charges and services, which consist of our maintenance contracts, repair and maintenance of vehicles and equipment. 6% is operating supplies, and 11.9% is reserved for future use or for our fund balance, and that was the $162,000 on the previous slide. Our capital improvement funds, the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025 is $35,503,038.
Easy for you to say.
There's a lot of numbers here.
That's okay.
We are also estimating that our fiscal year 2024 carryover budget would be $24,614,750. And Mr. Marsh will go through the capital improvement fund later on in the presentations.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation, and I'm open for any questions.
Any questions or comments, member on council?
Yeah, actually, I do. If you can go back to the stormwater fee, we talked about the proposal was to increase it by $1.
Yes, ma'am.
About the potential, just because everything else is going up, I know it's only $1, but how the revenue changes then if we did it at 50 cents this year, 50 cents next year instead of the full $1? How, because I can see that you're looking at your over expenditures as 162,000, so is that enough to cover it?
So if we only increased the 50 cents this year, it would give us an excess of around 52,000. The excess, when we budget our expenditures in the stormwater fee, we budget them very lean for expenditures.
Right.
It's what we really need. If there is any kind of break in the line, or, we have that experience right now with one of the properties where we have an issue, there's no excess funding right now. So we would have to then fund it from a different source. So either from the general fund or from one of our other capital fund sources. Raising it $1 will give us a little bit more of a cushion to where if we have to have minor repairs, that would cover it.
Right.
Mr. Webster could probably tell you more about how much the minor repairs would be if, raising it 50 cents would cover that. I don't think so. I actually think 162 would, if we have 2 repairs we need to do within a year, that may not cover that. But at least it will start building somewhat of a cushion to where we'll have a fund balance and we'll be able to do some of those repairs without having to bring in other sources.
And I understand because a lot of it is from ARPA that we're getting the funding from that is going away. I just look at, once we add that $1, we're not taking it back, and that's where exactly. So it kind of just always seems like it's increasing, and just for our residents that are, experiencing so much already.
Right.
That's where, okay, thank you.
I don't,
Go.
I don't know if Sharon would know, or this is a Ray question. When's the last time we raised the rate for the stormwater?
5 years, 6 years? It's been a
It was
while.
been within, I don't remember when.
It was before COVID, though, wasn't it? Or,
I don't remember.
okay,
I don't
that's just what
remember.
I,
A couple, 2-3 years ago?
I think, weren't we doing it for the
Maybe 4 years ago.
canals?
When we first started this,
Really talk about it was when we were talking about the
the machine.
doing
where
a
we
separate
were
contract
edging.
for the removal of the canals. So that was quite a while ago.
That was
All the years
pre-COVID, I
meant
thought.
they go.
Building, so that's where I read.
It didn't count, right?
Yeah.
And we haven't had a complaint on the canal since, so that was a well-spent $1.
Yeah.
the whole, we got this to give you history, our stormwater initiative was something that we started because there was a point in time where we used to get a lot of flooding in the village, and this was a needed capability that we had to put in place. I can't remember, if I recall when we first did it, we were somewhere around $4.50, $5 then when we first started. So,
I think that's where
but
we're
I think,
$10.
I see, we have a nervous public works director over here because he's fighting, we've had a major pipe break, and it's really a challenge on what it's going to cost and what we need to do to fix it. So this, our finance director used the term minor. I would say minor with a lot of asterisks next to it because what we're looking at. And it's kind of, you learn things as you go along. We go to the marketplace to get services from the marketplace to repair something like this, and it's incredible what they're charging for these services. So anyway,
Going to come up.
You're good? No, unless there are further questions. No?
Coming up anyway, right?
Thanks, Sophie. I know, I know exactly what was on your mind. All right. Any other questions, members of the council? No?
Just if there's always somewhere else to cut it instead, so that we don't have to keep charging more. That was it. Thanks.
Okay. So that concludes your
Yes, sir.
presentation. Okay. So now we're going to hear from the department directors, starting out with, I guess, Ray, the council, our budget.
The council budget is just under 4% increase.
Are we in the book now?
Yes, we are in the book. Okay, we're in the book. Page 6. With my contacts.
Which tab is it? Oh, I see. No, yeah, I got it. Well, but this,
You know, we do cost of living increases in this budget on some of the expenses and on the pay, and that's consistent with the 4%.
I got the wrong book.
Is consistent. Everything else is pretty much the same. There was
I
some
got the wrong
changes in the travel and per diem.
I
We
thought
did
this was my budget book. I
recently
grabbed the wrong
join
book. That's
the
okay.
National League of
Okay.
Cities, so that is in there.
Can't believe I did that.
And that is,
This is,
that's the only change that we have in the council's budget.
okay, I'm sorry.
So then, with that then, because if you do have travel and per diem for each of us, when we don't do it, where does the excess go to?
Goes to the general fund. It goes back to the general fund and becomes carryover to the next year. And typically, we are carrying forward, anywhere from $1 million to $3 million.
Interesting.
And we do rely on that for next year's income. And we will do that again this year. In the administration on page 59, administration is made up of the the first set of numbers are Human Resources, Village Clerk, and the Planning and Zoning Director, or Planning and Zoning Department. The total of those three had an increase of 0.25. If I was just doing the village manager's office, it would be more than 0.25. So I'll thank the others too for bringing that number down. But there was the only change I have in here, and I don't think it's gotten reflected in here because I just got it last week, was Ron Book raised his fee from $50,000 a year to $60,000 a year, which is the fee that we used to pay 14 years ago. He reduced it at the recession, and he's now just bringing it back up. So Ron Book's office has done a very good job for us in Tallahassee and keeping us connected there. Other than that, there are no changes within the administration, within the administration. Legal is what's next here. Legal had an increase of 9.13%, and that's a reflection of two things. The rate has changed, will change a little bit this new year. We still get excellent rate for the services that we get, I will say. And a lot of the dollars are reimbursed through the development community. So some of the increase you may be seeing is from very active development year this past year, very active. The number of hours with Tuttle Royale have been, but a lot of those hours are reimbursed, so it's kind of a pass-through. And then next is the police. We talked a little bit about that at the council meeting. We are adding 2 officers, taking us to a total of 57 sworn officers, a total of 109 personnel total.
Ray, can I bother you? What page are you on?
PBSO is on page Sorry about that. I have all mine tabbed. Page 82.
Thank you.
So their total contract will be going from 8.8 million to 9.4 million, which does include a cost of living and the two new officers for a total increase of 6.27%. There are no other changes within the police contract. Next is Monica with, oh, there she is, Human Resources. She is on page.
But that is, thank you, salaries, the increase in wages, cost of benefits, taxes, so forth. And then the rest are just really inflationary costs due to vendors increasing overall costs here and there of physicals, drug tests, implementation of other programs. The HR department has been working diligently with IS and finance to implement a new HRIS system. We've also been working on getting a completed asset survey to go out to bid and shop for our insurance. We've been very fortunate to keep our general liability, our workers' comp, and our other lines of insurance low, and that's resulted in good renewal rates. However, with current property issues and storms and so forth across the United States and globally, that has driven insurance rates up for everyone, and so we're trying to take a different approach and a different strategy with how we would be insuring our overall assets for storm and other catastrophic type events. So we're working on those types of things to keep the costs down and questioning everything that we have in our insurance under that. So we're unsure right now, as Sharon said in her presentation, that is still being considered, and we don't know what that number is going to be just yet. Any questions I can answer?
Actually, I do have one with, and I guess maybe it pertains to workman's comp, but because we had those positions that were eliminated but weren't filled, does that help our insurance rate because we have eliminated those positions, or does it not matter because they weren't filled to begin with?
So workers' comp is based off a prior 3-year rolling period, and it's based off of a number that a company called NCCI does independently, and they give you what's called a mod experience number. Those numbers are based off your total payroll costs versus the cost that was incurred for the claim. And we are actually running a very good number below, you try to be below 1%. 1% means you're spending 100% of your claims costs of your premiums. So we're actually running below that, which is really good for a rolling 3-year period. Any other questions I can answer? No? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Planning and zoning, how you doing?
Good evening, everyone, Mayor, Council. Yeah.
What page are you on?
Yep, and I'll be reading off of page 71 where it's the account summaries. This is very much a status quo budget. Many of the increases that you'll see are just based on inflationary numbers. One of the good news is one of the big numbers there, the $21,000 for legal advertisements for our developments, that's reimbursable. So we get reimbursed for that $21,000, which goes a long way. Other than that, I have nothing else to add. If you guys have any questions, council has any questions, Mayor, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I don't think there are any questions, perfect.
Okay, good.
Good evening again. The finance budget increased about 5% overall. And the personnel-related, the increase is primarily to personnel-related and audit fees. Really, our expenditures kind of stay consistent each year. And really, the only thing that, usually goes up is our personnel related to like any increases we have. And then our audit fees projectively go up a little each year. But other than that, everything is pretty much status quo, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
I'm going to ask you real quick, and I don't know, this is actually could be for both of you. With the request from the Inspector General's office, does that add that much more as far as time, fees, expenditures?
I'll let her answer that question.
But it's just because there are a lot of municipalities I've spoken to where they've been requested to put forth certain things that then cost their end a lot more.
Time, yes, but that's
Right.
my time and
Okay.
I'm salary. So no additional cost to the village. Everything that we give them is electronically, so we don't have to make copies or anything so there's no expense to doing that. It's just time of getting the requests. My staff does help, but they can fit that within their time period of their daily work to do that. You're welcome.
Any other questions? Huh? Thank you, Sarah.
I'm actually here still for non-departmental budget. Our non-departmental budget increased overall 4%. And, oh, the page, sorry. That starts on page 113. The majority of the increase is just the insurance related, and like Ms. Bowles said before, we are still in negotiation and with our property and liability insurance, so we could see increases or decreases once we get those numbers back in.
Okay, I have a question. With regard to the insurance, then in preparing the budget, I assume you have a placeholder of some amount, like what we paid last year, or what did you use?
Correct. So I rely on Ms. Bowles to help me figure out what numbers to put in there as a placeholder, and we pretty much put the same placeholder that we had last year. They've been working on this property insurance renewal and figuring out what we're going to do for some time, so she kind of knew. We didn't use all of the budget that we had this current year because, of the negotiations, so we figured that the same that we had last year was substantial enough. It may come back more, it may come back less. We'll have to see what that is. If it comes back more and our budget that we have in there doesn't cover it, then I'll be back here to ask for an increase.
Well, hopefully that was a good placeholder.
Yeah, I think so. We're pretty good at our numbers.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
We're going to have choices on what risk we want to take, and that's what we did this last year. We were given a very large increase for the coverage that we were carrying the past 20 years, which was looking at the total value and not looking maybe, it was looking at the total value. We changed that to ensuring our maximum potential loss based on the infrastructure that we do have. So it reduced the total quite a bit, but obviously that total was reduced from a larger number to a number probably a third of what the total was. So, but it's based on some real factual information as far as impact from a Category 4 storm.
And the assessment of how much risk we're willing to take on ourselves, kind of a thing, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's the ultimate, right?
What we did is looked at what maximum potential loss dollar figure for a Category 4, and we insured that. And that number was considerably less than what the number was before, and we were able to then cut our premium in half. What we do going forward will depend on how the market responds to what we have.
You may have to go
that's
further in.
What Monica was explaining earlier, going through that, it's very important that you have an accurate accounting of what you have and what age it is and how it's built and what you're willing to insure and what you're willing to not insure.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we've had better luck than I did with my car insurance.
isn't it amazing? All the insurances are going, the whole industry, no matter what sector it is, real estate, automobiles, we're going through an interesting transition in the marketplaces, so.
It's almost like riding coattails here, unfortunately.
You wanted to add something?
I just wanted to say that there were two things that happened last year that drove the cost besides just the market, what was happening overall with all insurance. But we also added a tremendous amount of new structures. The Village Hall went from being insured at, say, like 2.5 million
Sure,
to 12
yeah.
million. So there was a
Little
tremendous
change
amount
there.
that was added to our total insured value assets. We went from like 32 to 45 million dollars. And of course, you're taking a lot more value and then you're insuring it at a much higher rate. So that added to the jump in the actual premiums as well.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions for Sharon? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Information systems. Hello, how you doing?
Good evening,
Okay.
Mayor and Council.
They don't
Hope
let you out
everybody's
much,
doing
huh?
well. Hey, I'm glad to report that the IS operating expense increased by just less than 1%.
78.
First, the increase is obviously due to hardware and software maintenance contracts. Aside from that, we have very exciting things coming up. One of the major things that we have is we're going to initiate the replacement of our ERP system, which is the core suite of application for the village, and which is Navaline Central Square, which HT, Navaline Central Square, they keep changing their name. But anyways, it's Navaline now, and we plan on replacing that. We're gonna engage a consultant to assist us with that. And what we're gonna be replacing, Navaline consists of 13 applications. So this new ERP would have at least those 13 applications. They may be able to incorporate some more applications. So we'll be able to phase out some other applications that we have aside from the ERP. Also, the Navaline integrates to a third-party application, so we're gonna have to provide for that as well. And in providing for this, for more integration, I imagine that whatever we get into is gonna provide for more integration with the core ERP. So I imagine that we're gonna be able to exchange much more information between like the integrations that we have right now with Project Docs, Laserfish, Gatekeeper, Bentech, ACOM, and IVR. But mainly, we'll be able to exchange more information with Project Docs and Laserfish, which is a good thing. And like I previously said, we're looking to replace those 13 applications, but also see if this ERP includes some other applications. This way would wash out the increase in cost for the new ERP by phasing out some applications that may be integrated to this ERP. That's going to be, the whole process of replacing the ERP, we estimate is going to be 15 months from beginning to end, but it could be less. But anyway, we're going to put out the RFP for the consultant pretty soon, right, Ray? We're going to get that RFP out and get a consultant on board to start analyzing what we have right now and what we're looking to achieve, all the applications that we have, and see if we can get an ERP system that can consolidate some of those applications. The other major project to me is we're adding another 33 cameras to Commons Park. And right now we have 32 cameras at Commons Park, and many of those cameras are inside the building and outside the perimeter of the building. This new 33 camera is going to be on the outside, on the grounds. So it's going to be more coverage to the parks and the open areas. And those cameras are going up right now. So they're not online, but they're going up right now. Aside from that, we have some other obviously exciting things, but those were the two major projects. So any questions that I can answer?
Any questions, member?
I do have a quick question. Is with cybersecurity is always an issue. With AI now, do you find that you're working harder against cyber attacks, or do you find it the same? Do you anticipate it's going to pick up?
Yes, because there's a lot of AI-driven cyber attacks. So yeah, it's going to increase our work. It's going to increase as far as us, like, being more, add more security systems. We already made use of AI to combat cybersecurity.
Right.
We already have one in place, and we had for a few years now, that detects like virus based on pattern and behavior.
Right.
Rather than like the old-fashioned way, which used to be by like, pre-definitions that they used to put out. So yes, I do, AI is going to be a blessing and also a curse in a way for us.
Unfortunately, yes, but don't give up our secrets.
Maybe they'll deter.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Rob, you're up.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This year's community development budget kind of starts on page 4. You can see the operating budget comparisons there. We have stringently held the line, and mine's the one in the parentheses down there. I guess they wanted me to be able to find it very easily. But anyway, some of that is just going back and taking out some of the small excesses throughout our training and our operation expenses. And some of it's from the reclassification that you may have heard about earlier, and you may even have some questions about. And I'd just like to go right into that. We had an opportunity, and we presented the managers some ideas to what we thought was a way to kind of increase our level of service and then shift some of our personnel around to be a little more effective. So what we've done is that we've created a position, the Community Development Administrator position, who handles the permit techs and a lot of the intake with reporting, invoicing, and a lot of operations and office operations, as well as by doing that, it lets us reclassify so that we have a third full-time permit tech on the front line there. As well as, you might remember a year or so ago when we had dropped off one of the code enforcement officers, and we kind of ran that experiment for a while, and we felt like we were very successful in some areas, and certainly in the residential areas, I think we've held their property values, but we felt like we were slipping a little bit in some of the commercial areas. So by asking this transition of the position to do more with the hands-on day-to-day operations with the administration, we're also asking that of our code enforcement officers. So we are going to be able to bring back that other code enforcement officer, so we'll have 3, but they will be more independent. They'll be able to operate in the field, and they're going to be asked to do more of their paperwork themselves and their scanning, and we feel like it's going to be a more efficient way to deliver that service. And with that, it ended up with about a $10,000 reduction in our costs. Going on to page 83, you'll see where community development budget starts there. And you can come through and see the summation of the 2 divisions. 1.4 or 1.5 million for the year. And that's the total. That's 1.1 for building. And you'll see our performance measures there that tie into our strategic plan initiatives. And then we roll right on over into the code enforcement, which is operating at $407,000. So that brings us back up to that total. With our staffing levels and our budget, I feel very confident, as does the manager, that we're going to be able to maintain our level of service and protect the property values throughout the village, both in residential and commercial. If you have any questions, I'd be here to answer them.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Let's do a quick one, is, because you talk about how we maintain our property levels, and that there before were certain homes that were either foreclosed on or vacant that we were maintaining. Do you see now, because other people have come in and purchased homes, do you find that we have less vacancy or less abandoned properties or unmaintained properties?
Well, if you kind of recall that discussions I've had with the managers, that those kind of distressed properties happen when the pendulum's on either side of the scale. And certainly when they were diminished and people were upside down in their houses, we had a lot of foreclosures. And we even enlisted a foreclosure registry at that time. Right. Now it's reduced to the point where we handle the few that we have in-house, and we're still going to be operating in that fashion. Now, as we know, the pendulum swung to the other side now. Things are very high priced. It's very difficult for younger families to find homes. So we're anticipating, and we're trying to get out ahead of that anticipated surge of people moving back home, adult children. And it's usually indicative when you see the parking is the first thing. You know, after 6 o'clock tonight, and even though we do try to do some evening patrols and weekend patrols and try to stay on top of it and respond to complaints, you'll see after 6 o'clock, the cars come in, they block sidewalks, they park on the front lawns, and they need some coaching to try to, get them heading in the right directions. But long story short, we're anticipating that kind of increasing with our increased or reassigned code enforcement officer. We think we'll be ahead of it. And hope that as this pendulum comes back to the middle, we can just continue that slow growth pattern instead of these big spikes. Is that?
It does, because I know your department was tasked with maintaining some properties, or at least going in to kind of clean them up, about whether they were the pools, the yards, things like that. So I just didn't know if now you can see that the amount of properties that you have to maintain have decreased just because of
in the short term they've decreased. Right. and you realize we go in and find those problems, and it's with our team with Public Works and the cooperation behind us that it really helps it all come together, as well as in, the code enforcement actions. So we'll kind of wait and see. We still have some green pools out there, we still have some tall lawns, we still have some vehicles in the back, and occasional chickens and things like that we could go on with, but we're busy. We're staying on top of it.
I know you are.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, Chris.
Now for the big money.
Yeah.
How we doing?
He's going to cover the CIP later, I think.
We'll start on 91. The most significant change that engineering has is we're going to be adding a special projects manager. The reason for that is the recreation center. We felt that with the construction of that building, while it was open, we needed a full-time person out there to make sure that the contractor was doing the right things as it related to safety and protecting the people that are using that building. So we think that it's a prudent move to have them out there, and it should help expedite construction because they'll be there on site to answer questions and move things along. So that was really the only change that I had.
And it's a full-time temporary position. It's
a what?
It might be here for a couple of years because the project might take that long, but it's programmed to go away when that project finishes.
Okay. You were reading my mind.
Consultant. Long-term consultant. No, okay.
And the reason we didn't go with a consultant is we haven't had great success with the loyalty.
Yeah, I get that.
From an employee.
No. Okay. Sure it'll work out. Thanks. Any questions, comments? No? You'll be back.
Sure it'll work out.
Public Works.
I'll try to be brief. I don't know if I can be as brief as Chris just was, but I'll give it a shot. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. The Public Works operating budget starts on page 96 with the organizational chart you see there. 97, 98 show the department description and major goals and objectives. The budget that you have before you for Public Works is basically a status quo budget. There's no major changes to it. We do have a decrease in our personal services, which is offset by the increase in contractual services and maintenance contracts. The increase in maintenance contracts is due to the outsourcing for 2 of those positions to grounds maintenance. Specifically this compound, the Village Hall compound, and Crestwood Boulevard from Saratoga Boulevard to Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. And of course, we eliminated a previously unfilled custodian position, as you're aware, in order to contract out the custodial maintenance of this building. And really, there's nothing else really to say. The increase is like 1.8%, a little under 60 grand for this budget. Like I said, it was status quo. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
So usually when you contract out, one of the reasons you do it is to save money, right? Fully loaded FTE is more expensive than the equivalent kind of a thing, theoretically. So I'm assuming it wasn't exactly a trade-off there.
It was really close.
It was?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The village has a very generous benefits package, and if you look at the dollar amount just on the one position for custodial to this custodial contract, it was very close.
Okay.
What we had budgeted for that position to what we contracted the maintenance, the custodial maintenance of this building.
But I think what you're saying is he had a 1.8% increase overall.
Right.
That covered a 3.5% increase of all the employees and the increase in contractual services and the added contractual services. So
it netted out to only a 1 point something percent as opposed to
1.8%, correct.
3.5 and that. Yeah, perfect. Great. Thank you.
I like the way Ray said it better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions on Public Works?
No.
If it's okay, I'd like to go ahead and do the stormwater budget then. If that's okay. That budget starts on page 120 with the organizational chart you see there, the department description and the major objectives on page 121 and 122. This budget is also a status quo. We don't have, we've got a slight decrease in personnel services. We have a decrease in maintenance contracts, which is due to the fact that we no longer outsource street sweeping. We purchased a sweeper, and that's working out very well for us. The street sweeping, as you are all aware, is a foundational part of our MPDS program, stormwater program. So that, and aside from that, it's all the same. The repairs to drainage you see there is where the $1 increase in the stormwater fee has been accounted for in the expenditures. And aside from that, I have no further comments to make on this budget, but I will be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions?
So that dollar is $1 per month, right? Because that's a monthly rate we pay, right?
Yes, sir.
So $12 a year. And if I understood the explanation, it was along the lines of trying to generate a reserve to be able to handle very significant, unexpected, unanticipated repairs, which.
Yes, sir.
And that makes sense. Of course, I believe we also could pull on our reserve if we really had to. So that's another possibility, that is a village reserve. I mean, that seems reasonable. And I think in my conversation with the village manager was an indication that the rate that we are currently charging for the stormwater utility is about middle of the the range of what you see among different municipalities throughout the state. Was that right?
$9, and we're going to be at $6.50.
Okay, all right. So
It
it's even-
ranges anywhere from $1 to $42.
Oh, my gosh. Well, forget the average.
But the average is 9.
That's not useful at all. But it's,
A little bit more than 9.
okay, so still, it's below then a median.
We're below that.
Okay,
We're below
all
the
right.
average and the median.
All right, great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Good, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Parks and Recreation, Mr. Mark, how you doing?
The winner?
Part of being the first time of doing a budget presentation to the council that I get to be the winner in Ray's terms.
I guess Stormwater beat him out by a little bit, though, I guess, with the increase.
You know, that's kind of important, too. So I believe my budget report in the budget book starts at page 102.
Yep.
So just a few highlights for the upcoming budget year are basically the increases relative to our additional operations, upkeep, and maintenance. This year, we added the 2 new corporate pavilions at Commons Park. We've got the newly renovated Cypress Hall, which will be in full operation at the start of the next fiscal year, and soon to be open, the 5-point-acre Crestwood North Park on the north part of the village. To meet these expanded services and amenities, our overall Parks and Recreation budget is increased by just over 8.75%, which includes one, as Ray mentioned earlier, 1 new full-time employee, 1 new permanent part-time employee. We also have expanded our contractual services. Primarily, the expansion there includes like our upkeep and maintenance at Challenger Park, Ewing Park, and the grounds at the Cultural Center. So we're also not planning on cutting any or reducing any of our park and recreation services and programs in the upcoming year. I know that the big item is behind me here because that's the capital improvement project with the rec center, which obviously have big impact on our department as well. So, but I'll let Chris talk about that. So I'm open to any questions or comments that you have.
Any questions, comments? No?
Quick comment is I know it's very difficult to come in, especially with you as the Park and Rec Director as a new position or new individual in that position, as well as the assistant. So very nice job with a lot of everything that we always have going on, and we're known for our parks and all of our events. So thank you very much for taking that head on.
Thank you.
And while it was a surprise that our assistant director was resigning too, the transition between Lou leaving and then Mike leaving went very smooth because Mike was so generous with his time and stayed on for, I think, good 6 months after you had started and really worked hard within that 6 months. Even though he was a short timer, you couldn't have tell by his effort in getting Mark up and going and helping. So we really, really do appreciate Mike doing that. I know Mike kind of felt bad, felt he was abandoning it, but the reasons he was doing what he did was 100% worth it, and I'm glad he had the opportunity to do that and go back to where he grew up and his
He's
parents
probably
are.
still watching us right now.
I doubt it.
But it was,
No way.
it turned what could have been a much more difficult transition to a much smoother transition. So.
He did wish me well at the start of the 4th of July, and I sent him a picture of the fireworks going off at the end of the day as well. So
There you go.
Put in perspective, I think he said it's the first 4th of July in 16 years. He didn't work, so, yeah.
Wow.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead. You had a question?
Just, I guess it's not directly budget related, but I've been noticing, in my walks throughout the various parks, there's more homeless people out there, and I want to know if they're causing any problems for your workers, or if you've had any reports that, hey, these people are giving us, like not getting out of the way when they're trying to do something or impeding their work in any way.
yeah, so our staff, we've got a good relationship with Rick and his PBSO staff. So that's basically they're instructed to, if not to really deal with any confrontations.
Great.
Contact PBSO, and they're very responsive to coming and them taking care of those issues.
That's great,
So,
yeah, because your people need to be able to do their jobs.
I always encourage my staff to deal with that way and the general public as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, it's
Yep, it's that time.
CIP time. Pickleball, right?
It's in preparation of the completion.
Oh, that's a nice picture. Look at that.
It's a great, I was commenting on that earlier. Yeah, great picture.
We're very, very proud of that.
Looks good from the street, too.
Ready to get going?
Absolutely.
Do you guys hear the music playing
got a
when you pull
pickleball
into the
match,
parking
don't
lot? I do.
Sounds of the fountains, very relaxing.
Yeah, that's good.
Hopefully we can keep the homeless out of it, right?
I think we'll be able to handle that.
Okay. So I am presenting the capital improvement program for fiscal years 2025 to 2029. The first slide is a summary of the different funds and the totals. And this year's a little bit different because it's available funding and 2025 expenditures. In the past, we had combined rollover and the 2025 expenditures. So we're only considering tonight the new money for 2025. So it's going to look a little bit different in the presentation. One thing I did want to point out is that if you look at the 105 fund, you're seeing $0 in expenditures. That's not entirely accurate because money has been transferred into the Stormwater Capital Improvement Program. So there are dollars being spent, but basically through a different fund. And there is a sizable transfer to the operating budget for police services in the tune of $2.5 million that you're not seeing in there. The first fund is the Rec Facilities Fund. The fund is limited to the acquisition, improvement, expansion, or implementation of parks and recreational facilities. That is pickleball in our, which is a very popular sport. I actually found that online, and there's ways where you could get teammates through through some type of pickleball teammate. It's pretty interesting how fast that sport's growing, and obviously we are building some new courts and have built them, and they're in operation. And the 101, there is one project in there, which is in the Tuttle development. That's at the end of the 5-year, and it's there so we could start seeking grants, and we'll actually be able to get input from people that live in that neighborhood in the near future as the 2 additional apartment complexes come online, and hopefully the centerpiece in Pod 6 starts to come to life. The next fund is the Community Beautification Fund. It's limited to projects that enhance the aesthetic landscape and visual perception of the village. And there is one project in there, which is the main entrance feature on Okeechobee Boulevard, which that would be kind of modernizing the paint and potentially adding some stonework to that sign. Next fund is the ARPA fund, which is limited to public health emergency response, economic support, premium pay for essential workers, governmental services, infrastructure improvements, housing, and homelessness. There's one remaining project in there that we're actually about to finish up, which is Cypress Hall, which should be a new and exciting facility for the village, which actually has substantial completion, and we should be programming that facility at the beginning of next month. So that'll be a nice addition to village facilities.
We're going to do a little special thing there, opening or something?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, okay.
The
The next fund is the Impact Fee Fund. Revenues for the fund come from all new development. Expenditures are limited to new roads, public parks, and public buildings. This is kind of a combination of two older projects, and we basically combine the scopes of those, so when we're in the park making a mess, it'll be limited in duration. So if you look at that northern parking lot, there are significant standing water issues in that. So in order to fix that, we have to run a pipe basically kind of on the north end of the softball field there. And then the restroom buildings are desperately in need of being replaced. So that facility would be replaced, and some general grading upgrades along with the tennis court lighting would be modernized with LED lights there. And if you have any questions on any of these other projects, they've already been around in our previous budgets. Now, the next fund is the Local Discretionary Sales Surtax Fund. The fund is limited to projects that include the construction, reconstruction, or improvements of public facilities that have a life expectancy of 5 or more years, and any land acquisition, land improvement, design, and engineering costs. And this is the big one. This is the next big thing. We're excited about this. We actually just had the RFQ opening for this week. So the process moving forward will be, we'll get presentations from the people that submitted requests for qualifications. We'll shortlist based on those presentations. Then they'll bid it. It's a little bit different form of contract that we're going to be utilizing for this. It'll be a design-build contract. So they will be responsible for finalizing the design and then constructing. And the reason we chose this form of bidding and procurement is we think that it could get us a little bit ahead on starting construction, because there are certain elements of the design that were very close to being complete, particularly. So there's opportunities for that construction to get going sooner while we finalize other elements of the construction. So. And this project, one significant change that did happen to the scope was the mezzanine running track. We did evaluate that with the design team, and in order, we thought about doing it as an ad alternate so we could see what the true costs of that were going to be. The problem with that is, from a structural engineering standpoint, it was two entirely designs. So basically, you had to pay for 2 full designs of the building to create that. We looked a little bit deeper into that design. Because of the size of the gym, the track would be very short. We did look into, okay, maybe we could expand the track into the existing gymnasium, and that would give you a little bit more length. There were significant design challenges with that because of the existing mechanical system, and then more structural issues because you had an existing interior wall where before you kind of had the ability to construct it within all new space. So the costs were going to be significant. The other issue was if, for instance, if you were in this room and you were to put that track above you, you're going to create basically shadows and kind of reduce the feel of that space. And for those reasons, we have elected to eliminate that from the scope. And obviously, there will be cost savings with removing that, and I think we'll still end up with a quality project.
I'll tell you, I'm disappointed we're not going to do it, but I do understand the reasonings why. But it would have been a huge asset to have that in there. The other thing, are the RFQs, is it still open, or have you received all the bids and that process is closed?
We received it,
okay.
But there is a separate RFP process that will follow that.
So others will be.
You can't get in now.
You can't,
so
okay, you had to go through the RFQ first.
Unless we were to reject everything and start over.
From that, okay. Thanks.
I think we have 3 good contractors that submitted their qualifications, and hopefully we'll be able to work something out with that.
Have we worked with any of them before?
No, we've not.
Okay. And so is there a downside to a design build?
It could be cost.
Okay. It almost seemed like it would be less expensive, actually, having one contractor to deal with than two. But
I've heard and read a lot of good things about it, and that's why me and the manager, after discussing it, because and we did explore having somebody pick the design up and complete it somewhat the traditional way or the same way that we did the Village Hall. The problem was all the designers wanted to basically start from scratch, to throw away all the design effort that we had.
All right.
So we thought that using this methodology, they'd want to use the existing design and complete the project.
And cost was one thing. I mean, they wanted another full $500,000 to design it, but it was time too. They also wanted another full year.
Yeah.
So knowing that we had already done the floor plan, already picked all the materials, all the systems are already selected, we felt, putting it out as a design build may save that year and get us, as Chris said earlier, get us to construction
yeah,
sooner.
well, like you were saying, you can do some concurrent kind of activity.
And we're hoping in the long run, there are three good contractors, and our qualifications that are required, we're pretty strict. We want companies that have experience in doing this kind of work. So it may end up being a really good value for us because the contractor that has experience doing this, has in-house designers, may be able to bring significant savings to us. The problem is I don't know if we're going to know that there's significant savings because costs keep going up so much. If we started this project much less than the $16,668,000 you're seeing here. But, so it's kind of hard to say when it's all said and done.
Okay, all right, thank you.
The next slide is the remaining projects in the fund. One project I did want to bring up is Veterans Park. That did get into the budget prior to us having the issues with the bid, so you're seeing more money come into that in the next fiscal year. I don't know if you want to take action to push that out potentially to the end of the 5-year maybe, so to free up those funds in the next fiscal year.
Didn't we already do that? Or push off the
I thought that was the direction we were headed in.
consent agenda last time?
Well, what you did
and
was, if you were to award the $900,000 one, we would have needed another $500,000
Okay,
budget
because
adjustment, and that's
that
what.
was on bids is what
Right.
it was.
But
then,
what Chris
okay.
is saying was,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we didn't
yeah.
expect that. What we did expect was something coming in around 435, so we were.
Right, yeah.
We were originally budgeting, but that was still here, so.
It makes sense to me to take it out. I mean, but.
Put it forward,
Or-
towards the end.
The way to the end
Well,
of the
yeah,
5 years.
not have it in these.
We could push it out, and maybe there'll be a grant for something that we could pick up and make it a little bit more palatable in the future, so.
Okay, I'm good with
Thank
that.
you.
The next fund is the General Capital Improvements Fund. And with the David Farber Building, in the previous budget, we were looking at flipping the existing gym space over to the PAL space. Once we got into evaluating that, we decided that you weren't going to gain that much space in the gym, and we could gain valuable training space immediately adjacent to the other space and then connect the kitchen. So what we did is we're looking to slightly expand the kitchen area and then connect the kitchen to the both spaces. So both spaces, you could have two separate events going on, and they'd still be able to utilize the refrigerators and the countertops in those areas. And there would be a little bit more space in there for those two events. The existing restrooms, although they're adequate for the space, we have received complaints about them not being adequate when you have big events there. So we are looking
Wrap my mind around what you just said.
to take a little bit of the locker room space
people are there.
and expand the restroom there. And then,
Yeah.
Well, we're probably going to drop out, we have 3 showers in each. We'll drop out probably 2 showers in each and a locker room space and get more stalls.
So do 1 shower? Is your proposals to do 1 shower? Okay.
Probably. We have an architect on board that will,
we're working with the architect.
will give us the best recommendation.
I'd lean towards 2 showers, but less locker space. But
There you go. There you go.
Making this available to the public, like renting training space, something like that, if somebody was interested in using
We're
the
not
facility.
considering that with this budget.
Okay. Just wondering if that was part of the thought. Okay, that's fine.
You'd be surprised how many people, because the sheriff's office uses this a lot, and other police departments use this a lot. This is a very nice central location for the others to use, and they come here and do quite a bit of training. So I think we'll get quite a bit of use out of both rooms. And like Chris was saying, now that we'll take that office that's there,
right,
combine that with the kitchen, and then have both meeting rooms be able to access the kitchen.
Yeah, it'll make it even more useful, more valuable. That's good.
And it helps out. Remember, the sheriff's office uses that facility during hurricanes, so that'll give them a little bit more usable space and for when they're responding to emergency events. Next one is Village Hall resurfacing. So this would be the Ewing parking lot would be resurfaced, and the kind of the fenced-in police storage lot would be resurfaced as part of this. And then I know it's only pointing to one of the asphalt pathways, but it will be the entire campus that will replace the asphalt pathways with concrete pathways. I'm sure you've seen it. There's a lot of deterioration and root damage to the asphalt pathways. So this would get them back to ADA compliance. And
Is it 6 inches or 6 feet concrete?
6-inch thick concrete.
Oh, thick concrete. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Are they doing, how wide are they?
It'll match the existing width,
Okay.
which is primarily 8 feet.
8 feet?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
This next one is the actual screen that we use for our ERP. I thought it was important to show that we're still using DOS-based screens to do a significant portion of our financial management, our code enforcement, our permitting through planning and engineering, the building department. There's quite a few modules that are interconnected with this system, and we've held on to it for a long time because of that interconnectivity. Unfortunately, with technology, particularly with other software uses that we have that we want to integrate with this system, it's very difficult because it's an older, antiquated system. So what we're looking to do is to go out for RFQ, I'm thinking to hire a consultant that would come in and evaluate our existing software that we're using, and then guide us through a process of purchasing new software and making, obviously, decisions on streamlining and getting rid of certain softwares and making us more efficient. It will not be a quick process, and it'll be painful because you're talking about retraining essentially all of our staff that this software is used by every department for purchasing and lots of other things. So it will be something we're going to want to spend a lot of time with, and picking out the right software and then coming up with the right schedule for bringing the pieces in and training our staff.
This isn't the only option to use to get around our software. We do have, the Naviline does have, right. I know Marina's sitting back there saying we don't have just the green screens.
User interface, but it's important because my assistant still uses this. Actually,
half the staff still use the green screens because they do have a choice.
It is from today, yes. This is not an old slide.
Shall we play a game?
There's 2.
A lot of them still choose to use the green screens, but they do have the graphical interface that they is an option too, but.
So,
Did you want to add anything to that?
K is a rough estimate. It's a placeholder right now. Is it out? Well, it's in 2025, next year. Is it spread across some years, or are you just waiting to do that until you get some kind of consultant?
Yeah, that is a guess, because we don't have a consultant and we haven't evaluated everything.
Right.
But that is our anticipated full cost. Because we do anticipate at least purchasing the consultant and the software next year.
Okay.
All right. And this is another IS one. So we have a lot of cameras throughout the village. If you look at this map, the yellow dots are the cameras that we have in place. There's 232 security cameras. There's 20 LPR cameras out there. And then the other thing is we also have a lot of electronic door controls, and there's hardware and software associated with that. So what we're looking to do is obviously create a permanent maintenance program for these cameras and doors, and then do some upgrades to them. The existing door control systems are different and other buildings, the security is not up to date. So this will give us an opportunity to bring in a company to modernize those, get all our cameras properly function, and keep them that way.
Good.
Next one is the cultural center entry enhancement. There was additional funding added to this, and then there was a modification to the scope. Originally, there was a kind of a pavilion that was set up for wedding pictures. When we went in and evaluated the area, it's in a low-lying area, particularly in the summer. I don't even think it would be usable because of the mosquitoes and the standing water in there. So I met with the parks, with Mark, and we decided to remove that from the scope and just focus on getting the portico share in there. It is under design, and we do anticipate getting that under construction at the beginning of the fiscal year. And the next project is converting the lighting to LED lighting. This is at Bob Marcello Park, fields 1, 4, the basketball courts, and the batting cage area. And this is our all-access playground. That is getting funded this year. We did find a place for it. That is going to be next to the northeast playground. That area will be expanded to include this. At Commons, I'm sorry, at Commons Park, I didn't say that. So, and it'll be a playground that's designated to be inclusive and accessible for children of all abilities. So we think it'll be a nice addition to the park.
With that, would that also include then, because one of the things that we talked about, it wasn't even if it's the children that need help with that, but if they're parents, so going there with it. So I see there's an individual in a wheelchair in the merry-go-round, but will it be accessible so that if you're a parent, you can maneuver to get to the park to let your kids play in there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
As it relates to access, certainly it won't be every feature, but obviously
It's not just the
sizable
child that might
percentage
need it, but it's the
Correct.
parent to get, thanks.
These are just stock photos, right? Because I know Jupiter stepped into this problem when they opened a park. This nice little thing on the top left, wheelchairs do so good in the mulch and getting their kids there.
No, that's a generic picture from the internet.
Yeah, okay. So, but all the other stuff looks good. Those are good surfaces.
Oh, and remember, this is for children with physical, sensory, cognitive, and development disabilities. So it's not necessarily always somebody in a wheelchair. So it's not everything is going to be 100% wheelchair accessible. There is going to be a high percentage of them that are going to be wheelchair accessible, but it's going to be for kids with other disabilities that it'll be. And that concept is to kind of bring everybody together and let them play together. And so
All of our playgrounds have the amount of accessibility required by law. we actually probably have twice the accessibility that's required by law on all of our playgrounds.
I think even to Richard or Councilman Valentis's point with the mulch, like what we do at Todd Robner, so with the swing sets, there is a rubber runway that goes through there, so you can get from one to the other.
Correct.
Yeah.
There are ways that we can get to it, but there's just certain apparatus that's just, there will be limitations to.
We have a grant for that, is that right?
No.
Or did we get money from the state?
No,
None of it.
we've tried. We got close with the
Yeah.
CBIR
Yeah.
grants, and then we got
It was
vetoed.
line item,
so-
right? Vito?
No, the All Access Playground never made it, actually to the point where our lobbyists said, let's stop applying for it.
What's the,
Thought it sounded really good. We were
what's the
kind of surprised.
sentiment of Tallahassee on that? Why they,
They're focusing
Not
on
the legislation.
cleaning up
He said
water.
keep it environmental.
They're
okay.
giving grant money to cleaning up water, stormwater and
Right.
wastewater. Those type of projects are what they want to see money spent on.
Right.
The next project is adding lighting to the pathway at Earth Day Park, similar to what we've done at Robner. That pathway does act as the walkway along the sidewalk system, so this allow people to walk through there at night that are using the sidewalk.
It takes you by the sculpture Eve.
Yes.
That's where she is. Okay.
She's home.
The next slide is in Counterpoint, replacing the playscape at Moonlight Park. This is our boat ramp. The existing dock has been there quite some time, and it's done a good job. Unfortunately, it has reached its life expectancy. Also, the ramp itself, we have some issues with that collapsing in areas. So this project would put a new floating dock in there, similar to what we've done at other facilities, and then redo the boat ramp.
And I do see here the after photo, but that is complete and up and running, and residents can use it, or those with the access to the keypad can now utilize the ramp, correct?
Yeah, the ramp is open today, yes.
Today, okay.
Yes.
Gotcha, thanks.
Public Works did do some repairs to the dock to make it safe. They did some temporary repairs to the ramp so we can keep it operational up into the point of reconstructing it and try to minimize the downtime.
Okay, so, because I know it was closed for a period, but it is up and running and we can access it now.
Yes.
Thanks.
The next very big project is road resurfacing. We did postpone some of the projects, so this is catch-up time. It is a sizable list. I will say that some of these roadways are going to be done with a underdrain project. The northern end, the roads in the northern end of La Mancha will actually be done with that project. I did leave them in this slide because I didn't want people to get upset to see their roadways go away. So they're going to be done, but it'll be with a different project. So.
And that'll stop that flooding on the northern part just before you get to the bend? On La Mancha. So when you take La Mancha north, just before you get to the bend, there is that flooding from the houses, like the last maybe 4 or 5 houses.
It is not going to stop the
It's not gonna
groundwater
stop
from
that.
coming over the sidewalk. What this is going to do is it's going to protect our roadways from breaking apart. It'll make it a little bit better in the swales, but we can't legally stop the groundwater because the way we would do it is it tied into our canal system, and that would drain the adjacent wetlands. So that would be the only way for us to stop it. So and they're not going to let us at DP. So it's something that they've always dealt with. There could be an argument made that they've raised the elevation of Pond Cypress since the creation of the State Road 7 reliever road, which may have created a little bit more groundwater coming through there, but it's always been a wet area.
So, Chris, is it likely that all this work is going to be done in 1 year?
No.
And why are we putting the entire?
Because in order to award the project, we have to have all the money.
And so we're getting some financial benefit from awarding the project for all of these, even though over time,
Well, for the resurfacing, it's feasible for the majority of that to get done within a year. The under drain project is going to be a little bit longer because we will need to phase that work. We don't want them to rip the entire neighborhood up, so we'll force them to do a section at a time, which will prolong construction probably beyond the fiscal year. So.
Okay.
But yes, there'll be a lot of active work going on, and you're about to see another project
And that's
coming up,
gonna-
which is another section of La Mancha
That's going to put a lot of burden on you, though, right?
It is. We are going to utilize Erdman Anthony for a portion of the project management for that. So
That was the reason for putting that full-time position for the rec center, so that
So he can have some,
a project like
Some
that
space.
would take away their time from everything else.
That's a lot of stuff going on simultaneously. And nothing like presence to kind of keep things on track, right?
And then there's going to be a bunch of these slides. I'll click, wait a couple seconds. If you have any questions concerning these slides, just let me know.
What are we doing on the FPL?
What project number are you talking about?
It's 2305.
Ian project?
That's the north of Okeechobee Boulevard, taking that asphalt pathway and making it concrete and making it wider,
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah, and potentially improving the sidewalk on Okeechobee Boulevard from the signal to past, to connect with our existing walkway.
That'd be good. That needs it badly. So.
We would need to get some easements to do that, but there is an opportunity there as well. And the county does support widening that portion of the sidewalk. They just don't want to see a crosswalk on the kind of the west side of Ponce de Leon.
East side.
East side, sorry. There is one on the west.
The artificial turfs at Cat's Field on here.
The Recchio special.
Yep, as a line item.
As it relates to that, there is a active grant application for $1.5 million for that, and we're anxiously awaiting to see the results of that, and then obviously that will drive the path of that project moving forward.
Thank you.
We're going to have to call that a Mark project now, though, not a
I
Lou
didn't call it
project.
Recchio. I just said, yeah, that was
Mark,
Councilman
Mark is
Valentes.
very,
used that,
very,
yeah.
And Mark
very
strongly
positive,
adopted that.
strong.
Maybe we could do like a patch of the asphalt in the Lou Recchio corner.
The next fund is our Stormwater Capital Improvement Fund. This is the project I alluded to before. This is the under drain project to put under drain in there and protect our roadway base and improve the longevity of the asphalt surface. This next project, this is a pretty big project over time. We did, you guys alluded to the failure that we had on Sycamore, which is premature. Those pipes actually aren't close to their design life, so this was a surprise. But what this project will initially do is for us to go in there and start videoing these pipe systems. And because there are better methods of repair if you can get to it before it fails, where we can line the pipes and improve their lifespan and not get ourselves into another situation, because there are some, particularly, and initially we are going to focus on the runs that are most difficult to to service, where they're running between homes and are deep and are large. So that's where we would start with this, and then as we see a need to make repairs, obviously this fund will be adjusted. And this is another project where we received a grant, a $500,000 grant, and we will clean another section of canal. I think we're targeting the section that's in Camellia Park, and that runs to the north. And here is another section, and the reason why this was broken out is because we did receive a grant for this money, and in order to combine it with the bigger project, it would have been a headache, and the grant agencies were uncomfortable with it, so we basically carved out a section of the project, and we'll bid it separately under those grant rules. And then this is a project to go in and get the overgrown vegetation from our canal banks. So when we do have storm events, the trees aren't falling into our waterways, and obviously to maintain navigation within those waterways. And this is the rest of the projects. And as I alluded to earlier, there is a significant amount of ARPA funding that is paying for these projects. It's not coming from our stormwater utility fee. The majority of the money is coming from ARPA and other sources.
A lot going on. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Chris.
Good plan.
Very busy this fiscal year. Okay, this concludes our agenda on the budget review this evening. Are there any other general comments or questions anyone would like to make before we adjourn?
See you next week.
Yeah, everybody knows we're back here next week, right? But I don't anticipate it'll be a lengthy meeting. Should be fairly quick. So, thank you all. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, staff.
Thanks to staff for a great job.
We appreciate it, and, it looks like we're trying to keep us on the right track from a budgeting standpoint. Thank you so much. We stand adjourned.